Camus wrote about Sisyphus. You know, the guy condemned to push a boulder up a mountain, only to watch it roll back down forever. And Camus says we must imagine Sisyphus happy. For 10 years I was Sisyphus, but I don't know it. My boulder wasn't a rock, it was my own mind. Every morning I would wake up and start pushing, trying to fix my thoughts, control my anxiety, become the person I thought I should be. And every night I would watch it all roll back down. The difference? Sisyphus knew his task was absurd. I thought mine was necessary. I thought if I just pushed harder, analyzed deeper, meditated longer, one day I would reach the top and my mind would finally be fixed, clean, peaceful. But here's what nobody tells you about the human mind. It was never broken. It was just fighting a war that didn't need to be fought. Let me take you deep into what I discovered through years of actual suffering, not theory. There was this child, me, at maybe 8 or 9 years old. He would escape to the jungle near his home, not to play but to hide. From his alcoholic father, from his mother's suicide attempts, from the violence that filled every corner of his house. In those trees, something remarkable happened. He would climb up, sit on a branch and just exist. No thoughts about being the child from the broken home. No story about being damaged or wrong. Just breathing, watching, being. Sartre talks about this moment of pure existence before we layer it with meaning, with story, with identity. That child in the trees experienced it without knowing the philosophy. He was complete not because he had everything, but because he hadn't yet learned to split himself in two. The life taught him the split. You are dumb, they said, so he created a watcher, someone inside who could monitor if he was being dumb. Protection. You need to save your mother, life demanded, so he created the superhero, someone who had to be useful to deserve existence. You are incompetent, the world confirmed over and over. So he created the judge, someone who could attack him before others did. By the time I was 30, I was not one person anymore. I was a committee. The watcher, the judge, the superhero, the wounded child. All of them talking, arguing, trying to control each other. And I, whoever that was exhausted from mediating. This is what Kierkegaard called the sickness unto death. Not physical death, but the death of living authentically. You are alive, but you are not really living. You are maintaining a performance of being yourself. Here's the absurd part, the cosmic joke that took me a decade to get. Every solution I tried made it worse. Be mindful, they said. So I created a meditator who had to maintain mindfulness. Now I had another character in the committee. Observe your thoughts, they said. So I created an observer, but then who's observing the observer and who's observing that observer? It's like that old story. It's turtles all the way down. I would be at work trying to solve a simple problem, but here's what was actually happening inside. The task appears, the watcher activates, and then say, you are taking too long. The judge joins, you are incompetent. The defender fights back, no, you are just being thorough. The spiritual seeker says, observe these thoughts mindfully. The meta-observer watches all of this happening, and meanwhile the actual work not getting done. 5 mental programs running, burning all my energy while the things I actually needed to do sits untouched. Camus would laugh. This is the absurd in its purest form. Humans creating elaborate systems to solve problems that only exist because we create elaborate systems. The breakthrough came in the most mundane way. I was eating food I knew would harm me. I'm diabetic. I knew this food was literally poisoning me, but I would do it anyway. A therapist would ask, why do you self sabotage? But that's the wrong question because it assumes there is a unified I making a choice to sabotage itself. Here's what was actually happening there was no I choosing, there were just patterns, neural groups carved by decades of trauma playing themselves out. The pattern of I don't deserve care, the pattern of why bother, everything ends anyway. The pattern learned from watching my father drink himself towards death despite knowing better. Learned helplessness is not a choice, it's a nervous system state. And then I remembered that child in the trees. He didn't have those patterns yet. He didn't need permission to exist. He didn't need to prove his birth. He didn't need to become anything. He was. And I realized that child never left. He got buried under years of survival patterns, but he's still here, complete, whole, needing nothing. All these other characters, the watcher, the judge, the superhero, they are not real. They are survival mechanisms that mistook themselves for identity. It's like in Plato's cave. I would have been watching shadows on the wall, thinking they were real, fighting with shadows, trying to perfect shadows. The question is not how do I fix these shadows? The question is what if I turn around? So what does letting loose actually means at this depth? It's not a technique. Techniques are for the characters in the committee, something for them to do to maintain their existence. Letting loose is what happens when you recognize the whole game. For example, a thought appears. You are incompetent. Now the old response says, the committee convenes, the defender argues, the analyzer investigates, the spiritual seeker observes mindfully, energy burns, nothing resolves. Now the new response, oh, that's the pattern again, nothing else. Not because I am suppressing it, not because I am being mindful of it, but because I recognize. This is just an old neural groove playing itself out. It's not me, it's not truth, it's just weather in the mind. You don't fight with weather, you don't try to mindfully observe weather, you just let it pass. The committee wants to turn into a new project. Great, now I will practice letting loose. No, that's just another character, another program running. Letting loose means when you catch yourself creating a letter loser, you let that loose too. It's turtle all the ways down until you realize there's no bottom to stand on, and that's okay. That's actually what freedom is. What changed? I don't believe them anymore. Not because I replaced them with positive beliefs, but because I see them for what they are. Old software running on outdated operating system. The complete child in the trees. He's always been there. Not as a memory to hold on to, but as what I actually am. When all the survival pattern quiet down. That's not a metaphor. Neurologically, when the default mode network calms, when all the self-referential thinking stops, what remains is just clear functioning, presence, responsiveness. Scientists call it flow state. Buddhists call it no self. Camus might call it living without appeal. I just call it being myself without the exhausting performance of being myself. Work needs doing, I do it. Not because a superhero has to prove his worth, just because it needs doing. Food needs eating. I choose what's healthy. Not because I finally believe I deserve care, just because this body needs fuel. Decision need making, I make them. Not after consulting the committee, just make them. Camus ends his essay saying we must imagine Sisyphus happy. Not because pushing the boulder has meaning, but because he's accepted the absurdity. He has stopped fighting what is. I'm not there yet. Maybe nobody fully is, but I have stopped pushing so hard. The boulder still rolls down sometimes. Anxiety returns. Old patterns activate. The committee tries to reconvene. But I know I don't have to show up to that meeting. The child in the tree knew something philosophy took 2000 years to say. You don't need to become anything, you already are. Everything else, just old groups playing themselves out. Let them. They all get quieter on their own. That is all there is to it.